along with Emily Campagno, Marie Harf, Lawrence Jones, and Tom Shalhoub. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The 5. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. We've got a big show coming up. A fierce gun control debate raging after an armed security guard takes down the man who opened fire in a Texas church. Joe Biden under pressure to testify in a Senate impeachment trial, plus how The 5 plans to ring in the new year or not. And that is all coming up. But first, this is a Fox News alert. Iran-backed militia supporters storming the U.S. Embassy in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad and shouting "Death to America." Trey Ying says live from Jerusalem. He has the very latest as this story has developed all day. Trey?
Dana, good afternoon. A tense last day of 2019 in the Middle East as hundreds of Iraqis stormed the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. This prompted Iraqi security forces to intervene. Those protesters setting fires across the compound and smashing windows, chanting "Down, down, USA." Reports indicate the embassy is still on lockdown with American citizens inside. The ambassador is out of town, though embassy security forces were seen trying to push back demonstrators with tear gas and rubber bullets. Today, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spoke on the phone with Iraqi Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi to reiterate that the U.S. will protect its people. There was also a phone call later in the day between the Iraqi Prime Minister and President Trump. The president taking to Twitter to call on the Iraqis to protect the embassy, saying the situation was orchestrated by Iran. This comes after U.S. airstrikes on Sunday targeted an Iraqi Shia militia group reportedly responsible for rocket attacks on Friday that killed one American contractor. The group that was hit, Kataib Hezbollah, has vowed to respond against the United States.
It is flagrant aggression. It is aggression on Iraq's sovereignty. It is a violation of all norms and values. This aggression won't pass unpunished.
The president just a few minutes ago tweeting that Iran will be held responsible for its actions in the Middle East, particularly against U.S. facilities and personnel there. Certainly something to keep an eye on in the new year as tensions do continue to rise between the United States and Iran. Dana?
Trey, I'm sure we'll be talking to you in the next couple of days. Thank you so much. Now to our top other story. The debate over gun control back in the forefront after an armed parishioner stopped a massacre in Texas. Beto O'Rourke criticizing the pro-Second Amendment state for what happened. So saddened to hear about another church shooting in Texas, this one in White Settlement near Fort Worth. Clearly what we are doing in Texas, what we are doing in this country when it comes to guns is not working. And Texas officials are hitting back, saying their laws save lives.
I hope that other churches around the country will adopt policies like this and we can stop losing so many people when these incidences occur.
There are a lot of people in this country led by the Democrats and the radical left and Joe Biden who highly criticized our law when we passed it to allow members to conceal carry in church, to allow churches to have their own security force. It's idiotic to say to the American public that we want to take your guns and that's going to make people be better.
Well, it was a horrific situation there, and thankfully there was an armed person there that was able to stop the shooter. Lawrence, you're from nearby this area, actually, and wanted to get your take on this because that new law that Texas signed was just put in place about a year ago.
Right, so if you watch the horrific video, you see that there were multiple people with guns there, and that's because of the new law that allows congregations to have their volunteer police force. I'm not going to speak on other states. I'm going to speak on my home state. If you watch local news, you'll see the good guy with the gun all the time stop these types of shootings. And so I think it's kind of idiotic of Beto O'Rourke, who's from the state of Texas, that has witnessed this firsthand and seen on the local news. He had to have seen it. People prevent this from happening every single day. We could be talking about a mass shooting today, but we're not because of the new law. No matter where you stand on the politics of this, at least contend and say that law saved lives.
And Tom, it's in a way, we're talking, I don't think it's just for Texas, although we are just talking, it is the state of Texas, but across the board, you do see this over and over again, that if there is somebody there that lawfully has a weapon, that has been trained to use it, is able to stop bad actors from acting in places that are soft targets.
Yes, which is why I don't like slapping people down. After a shooting like this, you want to just kind of play it straight and you don't want to get political. But with that political tweet, he's exactly wrong. It's like the opposite of what he should be saying, that what they are doing is working in Texas. I'm a little confused because I've been looking at the laws and the changes. we have a Second Amendment. I don't know why you had to change a law to allow people to protect themselves in the first place. It seems a little weird to me, but obviously that's where we were going, over-regulation of guns, and they were pulling that back. And so, of course, we're glad that this guy was able to defend himself and the rest of the congregation.
Marie, perhaps one of the things that Beto O'Rourke was thinking about was that the man that had the gun, that the bad actor, the criminal, whose two ex-wives spoke out against him, saying he was a violent person. This is somebody who had been helped by this church and then turned on the congregants. Maybe that is what he is thinking of in terms of that person should not be allowed to have had a gun. But we are at a point but they do have them, so should we at least be able to protect others that don't?
We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I gave a lot of credit to this man who had the gun and stopped a larger mass shooting. I think that we are all grateful for that. I also said I don't think it should keep us from talking about widespread common sense gun reform. And I don't think we want to get to a point in this country, I certainly don't at my church, want to rely on just average citizens that are armed having to protect our church. That's not a solution, right? And I don't want my church to become sort of a free-for-all and a shootout with, yes, this guy was well-trained, but not everyone with a gun is.
But you don't think this is a solution?
I do not think this is a solution. I think we are lucky that this guy had it in this case, but it is not a solution for the epidemic.
So who would have protected us? Because there were no cops in the church.
It is not a solution for the epidemic of gun violence in this country. We can't pass laws to prevent individual situations or anecdotal situations. We need to look at the overall causes of gun violence. Some of them are mental health, by the way, which a lot of Democrats don't like talking about.
But these people still get the guns, so who protects us when the bad guys have the gun?
I want fewer bad guys to get guns.
Okay,
and that's done through common sense gun reform that we have to talk about, even in this situation, Lauren.
Okay, but in the meantime, there are bad actors with guns.
Right, and I think one of the state senators that co-sponsored the bill said it best, which is that evil people do evil things, and legislation will not prevent them from doing so. And I think what you guys are articulating is really valid, and it's one of prevention versus protection. So what we have Beto O'Rourke talking about is he's articulating a preventative approach, but without an actual piece of legislation, without something that will actually work. And what worked that day is the protection legislation, that bundle of legislation that was passed and codified in Texas that enabled the churchgoers, the congregants, to have their security force to train, that prohibits landlords from banning guns in places of, in their abodes, et cetera. The whole bundle there. And I think at this point, until we have identified those causes in such a volume where we really are seeing the eradication of it, evil people are going to continue to do evil things, and therefore I place my faith in the protection legislation.
Lawrence, talk a little bit about the people of Texas. Those of faith that go to church regularly. They were there right during communion. They have that, and how we see it. Unfortunately, we have to see it over and over again. But the Texans really do come together after something like this.
Of course, and it doesn't matter the political party. We rally around each other. But I also think that it's important to note what the difference was in Texas. The law already allowed people going to church to carry guns. That was already the law, state law.
Yeah.
But what it ratified in there is for there to be a police force. That way there can be organized. What you saw is an active shooter drill that they had already practiced. And so these aren't, and people when they talk about Texas, they think, oh, the Wild Wild West, this is just people just playing.
And everybody walks around with a gun.
That's not how it works. A lot of these people go to classes, they train with their families, and this is important to us. And again, I will reiterate, no cops were there. I respect the law enforcement of this world, but there's not enough cops to protect every single one of us. It's just not.
We're seeing this as a success story, and Beto is seeing this as a failure, but there's not a plan, there's not an option to ever prevent that, again, because evil people are doing these evil things. And what you're talking about is the success story aspect, that in that culture, gun safety, gun training, proper gun handling, right. And so in that moment, within 6 seconds, he was taken down and prevented more than 2 lives being taken.
Thankfully, he was taken down. All right, coming up, Joe Biden's surprising answer on who he might pick as his running mate, and Michael Bloomberg gets mocked. I can't wait to talk about this one. Those stories are next.
Sam Houston, leader of the Texas Revolution. Join Brian Kilmeade as he takes you inside the deadly war and the story that helped shape our nation. Watch Sam Houston and
2020 Democrats are making some serious head-scratching comments. First up, take a look at who Joe Biden says he may pick as his running mate.
I wonder if Joe Biden would consider choosing a Republican as a running mate.
The answer is I would, but I can't think of one now. You know, there's some really decent Republicans that are out there still. But here's the problem right now, of the well-known ones. They've got to step up.
Oh, boy. Plus, Michael Bloomberg is getting mocked over this idea. Quote, as president, I'll turn the East Room into an open office plan where I'll sit with our team. I'll use the Oval Office for some official functions, never tweeting. But the rest of the time, I'll be where a leader should be, with the team. Dana, you used to work in the White House. You like this open floor plan?
No, so of all the ideas that I have heard during the Democratic primary, of all of them, and I'm talking like the craziest of the crazy, I think this might be the worst of the ideas, the open floor plan. First of all, no one in America, no human likes an open floor plan. Now, maybe if you work at the company where you have an open floor, no, we have some open floor plans here, but you have to learn to get along with people, okay? And then White House, it's like super tense. Yeah. You need your space to be able to think. The fences make good neighbors, offices make good colleagues. Yeah. And also the East Room is for ceremonies. There's a history to the White House, and we want to preserve that. And you need the Oval Office for the president to think.
Yeah.
And also to be able to know that this is where decisions are being made rather than out on the open floor plan.
What about you, Marie?
I agree totally. I mean, there's something that comes with the Oval Office and the president and the power of that. It's where he and hopefully someday she will do their thinking, and when people come in there for meetings, it really means something, right? And I don't want that to go away. On the first question of the Biden running mate thing, though, I'm going to jump in on this one.
For it.
I think this is partly why people like Joe Biden. This is part of his appeal to a lot of voters across middle America, that he says things like this, right? He says to independent voters, I'm not just a partisan hack. I would probably consider a Republican. My problem with it is his view of the Republican Party is shaped by years in the Senate made up of Republicans who are no longer, this is a different Republican Party than when Joe Biden was in the Senate.
And also, can I just mention one thing, and is that the progressive base already distrusts Biden. So by saying, it's like when McCain said he was going to nominate Lieberman, and the Republican conservative base like, what?
And then
they backed off of that. Okay, but the Republican base, I mean, he got the nomination, right? Like, and pushing towards that.
Emily, I take it a little different because I feel like he's kind of pandering. Right, he's trying to still come off as that moderate Joe to show, hey guys, I'm the one that's going to bring everyone together.
Right. I think it does speak to the fact that he's archaic. He's too antiquated, because I think it annoyed everyone, not only the liberal Democrats who are kind of right there. They're in Elizabeth Warren's language, the fight rhetoric. They don't want to see this kind of collaboration. That's old news. And then moderate Republicans and Democrats are like, but you can't even name one. It seems disingenuous and more like a hearkening back time. And quick point about that open floor plan, if I can jump back. One of the details that I had as a managing attorney in the federal government, it was part of an open floor plan. But I was a manager, and I was dealing with classified PII and other people's disciplinary reports. And it was horrendous. And it was also probably breaking a lot of rules that I was in that situation or put in that situation. So I can't imagine that open floor plan with you dealing with super classified information. And I'm like, hey, Marie, what's on the task for today? Yeah. Like that's the most fundamentally lack of knowledge of the presidency I think it can even
I think he's out of touch. And I think Biden is also out of touch when he said this about the coal miners. I think we have that side.
Anybody could go down 300 to 3,000 feet in a mine, sure and hell can learn how to program as well. Anybody who can throw coal into a furnace can learn how to program, for God's sake. It takes about 15 weeks to learn how to do it. We can do it.
Is this, Tom, are they going to win the miners?
What is he doing? I mean, this was supposed to be brilliant, lunch pail Joe. They don't want to learn how to code. They want to work in these are coal miners. Some guy who's like 58 years old, he's been working his whole life. He's looking forward to retirement. He's saying, oh yeah, learn how to code. You can go work at Google Plus or whatever. It's ridiculous. He should stop doing these open floor plan meetings where he takes questions. Every time somebody asks him a question, he gets in trouble.
But I do think, though, no politician, at least in the Democratic Party, has fully figured out how to talk to people and voters about the changing economy.
Yep.
Our economy is changing.
True.
People do need to be trained for new jobs in different ways. Part of that is our education system also. But it's really hard to figure out how to say that without sounding
with the coding,
like you're just telling people to go code, right?
Which is coding. Everyone knows.
Dana,
learn to code is an insult.
It's saying I don't know what I can do for you.
Right. But isn't this a part of the larger problem with the Democratic Party? The message. And it doesn't seem like they have a clear, concise message for
So
both
here's
sides.
how I might have answered that question. I might have said coal is an important part of our energy mix, and that will continue as long as it can. However, let's be very honest here. In the free market that we have, even if you add in support from the government, more deregulation that the Trump administration has done, coal mining jobs have still continued to decrease. And that's because natural gas is less expensive and is cleaner burning. And that is where people are going. And so, yes, we want coal miners to have good jobs. And that might mean that we have to do some transitioning. But let's not make any mistakes here. It's not going to be forever. Like, we've got to think about how we're going to transition.
I don't know that's a good one either, Dana. If you're running for office.
Well, you know what? I'm not running for office. I'm just telling the truth.
But Marie,
politicians have to be on. Like, we need to start figuring out.
President Trump is honest.
But he promises things that aren't. He says to the coal miners, all of your jobs are coming back. And to your point, Dana, they're not coming back for a bunch of reasons. Not just natural gas, wind, solar, clean energy is increasingly much more economical and more profitable for companies. So people need to figure out how to be honest about the changing economy without promising a bunch of things that are, quite frankly,
I think
lies.
the president would also say that his message is also being energy independent. And so he wants all energy, and we are.
No, we are much more energy independent after 4 years.
All right, we got to go. Coming up, disgraced former FBI Director James Comey continues to whine about President Trump. We'll tell you what he had to say. All next on 5.
News.com.
James Comey refusing to go away and won't stop complaining about President Trump. The former FBI director writing a new op-ed describing what it's like to be attacked by the president. Quote, "It feels as though a strange and slightly sad old guy is yelling at you to get off his lawn," echoed by younger but no less sad people in red hats shouting, "Yeah, get off his lawn." We need to fight through our fatigue and contempt for this shrunken, withered figure. And former FBI agent Peter Strzok claims his infamous anti-Trump texts are protected by the First Amendment. He's now suing the Justice Department to get his job back. Well, first to Comey. Dana, he's on his lawn. I mean, he's complaining. The president is saying, get off my lawn. But James Comey wrote an anti-Trump book. He's basically campaigning against the president. He's on the lawn.
You think, because he has had this, like, a pretty amazing career, right? So he could go and do something else. He's not, I guess. I mean, the book obviously was a big success for him. The thing that Comey could do is ignore the president and move on. Like, what do you teach your kids if somebody's being like that to you on the playground? Like, walk away. Walk away. Go do something else. You have the gravitas and the legacy to be able to go and move on and go do something besides writing op-eds in the Washington Post.
But he couldn't do it. He couldn't resist, Lawrence. You know, he basically, I want to know about this civility thing. People like Comey constantly talk about the president, and he's uncivil, he's a bully, he's unpresidential. But then what's with this shrunken, withered figure? I mean,
exactly.
It's like De Niro. They're worse.
That and the red hat comment, because we know what that means, right? This is, and so this guy that is pretending to have this high moral, high ground, you know, I think people see him as a fake. By the way, can we stop pretending that the Democrats like him as well? If Hillary was president, she would have fired him as well.
Yeah.
No side likes him. Day one.
So,
you know, I think this is his new lane right now. To Dana's point, he could go and do something else, but I think he's making a lot of money off of this. I think that being that symbol, being that rallying cry, saying, hey, I was done wrong, I'm trying to protect the institution. Meanwhile, you got reports coming out saying that, you know, you actually damaged the FBI.
Well, I believe he did, and I think most people believe he did. And Marie, he's not going to get on your good side no matter how hard he tries, no matter how many book tours he does, right? You guys are still angry at him for what he did to Hillary, isn't that right?
I'm not over it yet, Tom. Still festering in there. Look, I think he's right about President Trump's behavior. It is unacceptable. It's bullying. It's uncivil.
What about his, though? What I said about, isn't he just as bad?
No, he's not, because he's not sitting in the Oval Office tweeting about people who are dead, about widows,
he just leaks information.
Which is not the same thing and not as bad, by the way.
One is illegal.
So let's just be very clear that he's not wrong about President Trump. He is not the right messenger for this. And I agree with you. Democrats do not like Jim Comey either because of his behavior during the 2016 election.
I'm
not going to defend him.
So he has no friends.
Do you want to talk
He has
about
no friends.
Strzok and his? Well, of course, his texts are covered by the First Amendment. I don't think we have. I mean, he has a right to free speech, right? But he got in trouble for what he did in his office.
Yes.
And obviously, at the time that he was canned, he didn't put up a fight then. He accepted his fate. Now he wants to turn things around.
Right. Well, so he already sued the DOJ, to be clear, right, for reinstatement and for back pay and also damages. And then the DOJ came back and filed a motion to dismiss. So a procedural motion basically saying this doesn't even deserve to be litigated on its merits in court. This is his response to that. So he's sort of reasserting what we already heard him say in August, which was basically that, look, everything, I acknowledge my stuff was FBI property, but just because it could be monitored, just because it was discoverable, doesn't make it unprotected. And he argued that you fired me for the content of what I was saying, which means the result of which every middle level manager that was just having water cooler talk can be fired from now on out. And he cited disciplinary actions, a prior history in the FBI, and basically said, look, I should have just been disciplined 60 days without pay, but it doesn't rise to the level of termination. But I think it's one more self-victimization that we are also hearing from Comey and also from Lisa Page, who also jumped in to Comey saying, 1,000 times yes. I don't want to hear about these self-proclaimed Jesuses and victims because I would rather have an op-ed and that real estate given to a firefighter in California or a business owner in Virginia or anyone else besides those three and more anymore.
All of them destroyed the FBI and the credibility of the FBI. Yes, they did. They were the leadership. They were part of the leadership of the FBI.
And Horowitz found that there was no bias that impacted their work.
Horowitz did fine, but
he said that he didn't know if it was political bias. But the bias still can exist. I don't care if it was politics or because they just didn't like Donald Trump. They lied to a FISA judge. They had conversations back and forth saying an insurance policy. If average day Americans that are seeing this, they don't want to be treated that way.
But the problem here is that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page's text messages, they were selectively picked out by DOJ and leaked by their spokesperson for political purposes. I think both Lisa Page and Peter Strzok have some cause there to say your official DOJ spokesperson only took a few that looked very bad for us.
Kind of a lot of
but they cherry-picked them and they gave them to reporters.
Didn't take
and
much.
that is not appropriate.
Just like that whole squad selectively gave information to the
That's
FISA.
not appropriate.
Yes, it is.
All
Yes, it
right,
is.
next up, a 2020 Democrat warning the party about how impeachment will help Trump win re-election.
Fox News, I'm Debbie Handley. There is unrest in the Middle East right now. The U.S. is sending in even more troops.
The 82nd Airborne Division's Alert Brigade has been ordered to rapidly deploy to Kuwait amid the unrest in Baghdad. The U.S. Army keeps an Alert Brigade of roughly 4,000 U.S. paratroopers for crisis response. There are roughly 5,000 U.S. troops currently deployed to Iraq right now.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson says this is a result of protesters storming the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad last night. New Year's Eve celebrations are in full swing in London with Big Ben in the background. Times Square attracting people from all over the world.
I just wanted to experience the ball drop that everyone talks about in New York. So I just came for a little holiday.
He's from Australia. America's listening to Fox News.
You're starting to see the...
Don't be afraid to catch feels. Ride your cup and chase through.
Joe Biden under pressure to testify about his son Hunter during an impeachment trial, and he's coming under attack from some likely places.
In my administration, we'll have a very high standard around ethics and making sure that we do everything we can to prevent even the appearance of a conflict. I think that's very important because, as we see, it can create a lot of complications even when there is no wrongdoing.
It's true that there's no evidence of any wrongdoing by Vice President Biden or that Hunter Biden broke any laws at all. But frankly, it does stink that Hunter Biden got this contract with no expertise in the energy sector. And he's already said, basically, he probably got that money, which was significant because of his connection with his father.
The president now weighing in, saying, quote, the Democrats will do anything to avoid a trial in the Senate in order to protect sleepy Joe Biden. So, Dana, we saw today that Senator Susan Collins expressed some willingness to have witnesses in the Senate trial. Lisa Murkowski did this week as well. You only need 4 Republicans to come forward and say, we actually want some witnesses. What do you see this impeachment trial where do you see it headed? How are you handicapping that issue of witnesses?
Well, I have put that thinking off until after the new year because what I think doesn't necessarily matter. I think you have to think about what is Mitch McConnell thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So McConnell and Schumer and Pelosi and McCarthy, frankly, the leadership of the House and the Senate, they have to think about what is in the best interest of their party in order to win as many seats as they possibly can in 2020 during this presidential election year. Now, I know that sounds very political and that we should just be talking about the Constitution, et cetera, but we all know, like, practically that is what they're thinking about. Schumer thinks that he does have this possibility of flipping a few seats from Republican to Democrat on the Senate side. Republicans think that they've got a handle to be able to keep this majority, but it's a slim one. And so McConnell has to be thinking in those terms. And so I think that I think when they'll all decide amongst themselves, now the president, he has weighed in. Like, he wants this all aired out. And I think that Biden should have just said, I'm not going to answer a hypothetical. Yeah. Because instead what he did is open this Pandora's box.
Flip-flopped on it.
Lawrence, you see, Dana mentioned the seats that Republicans have to hold on to. Susan Collins is one of them, Cory Gardner in Colorado. They're starting to hear some talk from constituents, that in some polls up to 70% of Americans say they want witnesses, that if it's going to be a fair trial, we need to hear from people. And when Bill Clinton got impeached, the majority and minority leader in the Senate came together and figured out a way to do that. Now, they were not interviewed there in the Senate chamber, but they were interviewed as part of it. Can McConnell and Schumer come to some agreement here?
I think they can. I think what was going to end up happening is they're not going to be witnesses. I actually would prefer the witnesses to come out. I don't care. I think it all should be put on the table. I know it's going to be a war. I know it's not best for both, maybe some political parties. The president thinks it's going to be better drawn out into the election. Schumer think that it'd be beneficial to him having witnesses testify. I think it's good for the country to put all of this on the table and let them duke it out in a civilized way, of course, although it won't be civilized. And I think the American people want this to be finally put to bed. So I'm for the trial.
Tom?
I don't think the Democrats really want a trial. I think they know. They all know it's a loser. They know it was a mistake. They know it. But they couldn't go back. They had passed the point of no return. So they have to act like they still want it. They don't want it. Nobody wants it. And if Joe Biden was smart, he would be running around, what do you call that, whipping senators to vote to, cut it off. Cut it off. Because the big loser in this would be Joe Biden, because the Hunter Biden thing will stay alive as long as impeachment is alive.
Well, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who is also still running for president, Congresswoman from Hawaii, weighed in on this. I think we have the sound of her talking.
We all know that Trump is not going to be found guilty and removed from office by the U.S. Senate. The impeachment, in my view, will actually increase his support amongst voters, and it's going to make him harder to defeat. Furthermore, the House impeachment has increased the likelihood that Republicans will take over the House of Representatives.
So whenever I watch her on video now, Emily, all I can think about is Saturday Night Live and when she's played on it, but I don't even know where she shot that video. It's very odd. But she's playing a weird spoiler role in all of this by trying to warn Democrats that this may be a political loser. You hear from a lot of House members who voted for impeachment who are in tough races who say, yes, it might be. We're not sure, but it might be. But it was the right thing to do. How do you handicap this politically? I'm not sure we can right now.
That's an interesting question. I think that the issue with her, too, is that she doesn't provide a viable alternative. So she's kind of like the guy, the ref that points it out without saying, well, here's the result here. I'm going to give you 5 here and take away 15 here. And I think it's also an interesting issue about the motion to dismiss, whether actually going through the trial. And I think as we discuss the merits of having witnesses called, as for example, Senator Collins, who said, look, I'm going to hear the evidence presented, and then I will determine whether my analysis will be augmented with witness testimony. Then I'll make the decision then. There are plenty who are talking about already a motion to dismiss, which I think goes into your argument about whether, as long as this keeps going, then they have that viable, especially optics argument about the Hunter Biden situation, now that we have Mayor Pete weighing in and Jake Tapper that are basically saying, look, it seems cloudy, even though they're saying there was nothing illegal. But up until now, we hadn't even had that, or the GOP hadn't even had that.
And the big question that even the Biden camp has been able to answer, what qualifications did Hunter Biden have to get that job?
But Lawrence, that's not related.
Important.
Donald Trump's impeachment is solely about the president's behavior in office. Why he did what he did is ancillary. The Hunter Biden is not being impeached.
But this is how this all started. Democrats said that the president was targeting his political opponents. And so if the president was asking for a legitimate investigation and there's actual evidence to suggest that Hunter Biden, there was something unethical or illegal there, then you should bring it out. That's what you get the complete story. Democrats just want to say, well, he just targeted his political opponents. They don't want to say if it was a legitimate investigation or not.
Well, there are ways to legitimately investigate people that don't involve holding back military aid, which is what the Democrats want to bring out in a trial, which we will all be watching for soon in the new year. But up next, first, Emily hits up Times Square as we get ready to ring in the new year. Stay with the 5 for all the fun.
3 men, 3 different strategies for defeating Nazi Germany. The fate of the world hung in the balance.
3 days at the brink, tonight on Fox News.
Tonight, we say goodbye to 2019 and hello to the roaring 20s. And for about 1 million people in Times Square, New York City, there's no better place on earth to ring in the new year. We checked it out earlier. Take a look. Entering a whole new decade. Do you have any resolutions for 2020?
I find to find a new job, to be more healthy, spend more time with my family.
Just to improve myself as a better person. To lose weight, obviously.
I just want to be more motivated for myself.
More travel and more money.
Supporting my favorite TV show, The Golden Girls.
And the contacts would say, thank you for being a friend.
Did you come just to see the ball drop in Times Square?
Yeah, we really want to do it. It's a lifetime experience.
It's on my bucket list.
And this is the year.
This is the year.
I've heard of that for several years.
It's in our bucket list, childhood dreams.
And we've been here like since 8 o'clock. 1 p.m. yesterday.
No, where have you been sleeping?
We didn't sleep. What is it? None of us slept.
1, 2, 3. Happy New Year! You guys, it was so fun being in Times Square earlier. You guys are obviously already ready to celebrate. Tom, you have done reporting from Times Square too, right, on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I don't like celebrating New Year's though. To me, it's at the end of too many holidays. You got Thanksgiving and Christmas, which I really like. And then by the time New Year's comes around, I just don't want to celebrate. We're going to the O'Briens tonight. We'll hang around. We'll talk.
I'm going the O'Briens. I love them.
Yeah. They're great, but we don't do like a big roaring New Year's. I mean, I didn't even want to wear these glasses, but the producers made me.
They look really good on you. Very, frame your face well.
I feel like, remember Devo? I feel like Devo.
Wow, that's a nice 80s reference for you, though, for those of you thinking about that decade.
Lawrence, that you wear those glasses well.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hang with some friends. They came from all the way from Texas, and we're just going to have a good time at my place. I'm going to make some queso, Texas style. But I'm not going to go out in this mess and put a diaper on and all that stuff.
No.
Only the extremes do that.
Are there no bathrooms out there?
I have no idea. You would think we could figure it out.
Marie, what are your plans for today?
So I'm in New York all week, filling another 5, which I'm very excited about. So my husband came up and joined me from D.C., and we're going out to dinner tonight at this Vietnamese place everybody's been raving about. So I know we'll probably be in bed at like 11:30.
I think what was so...
We're not big New Year's people. I don't know.
What was so awesome about Times Square today and all my interviews was hearing people's resolutions for the next year and also things that they left behind. Like one of the women said she left cancer behind in this last decade. People, yeah, exactly. People left, unhealthiness back, and it was so awesome. So apparently we have the top resolutions for 2020, among them doing my New Year's resolution, trying something new, eat more of my favorite foods, lose weight and diet, and go to the gym. And here's some more. Be happier, have better mental health, be more healthy in general, be a better person, upgrade my technology, and staying motivated.
Wow.
How about get rid of my technology?
A lot of contradictory stuff in there. Like try more of my favorite foods, lose weight. What?
Yeah. I think one of my favorite resolutions that I heard in Times Square was a younger girl who said, I said, what are your resolutions for next year? And she goes, to see BTS in concert, as many as possible. I was like, yes, that's a popular Korean band. Yes.
Excellent. I wrote a limerick for our 5 fans.
Okay.
Because, we ended the year, the 5, like 5th highest rated show. Fox News doing amazingly well in this year. So I wrote a limerick, and this is dedicated to our fans.
You can't read that word.
Why?
I'm kidding.
Oh, you're joking. Okay. Why would I even listen to you? All right. This is for the fans. At the end of this interesting year, we're so happy that you are all here, tuning into our station. Our show's now 5th in the nation, so thanks to our viewers, and cheers.
Yeah!
Aw, you guys, cheers.
Cheers.
To the 5, to 2020, to our
Can I blow this?
Fox family. Of course. Cheers.
All right,
Nice. Cool. Amazing. All right, you guys, one more thing is up next.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. That's the problem growing businesses have because of a hodgepodge of business systems. One for accounting, another for sales, another for inventory. If that's you, you know it's a mess that takes up too much time and too many resources. And that hurts the bottom line. You need NetSuite by Oracle, the cloud-based business management software that gives you the visibility and control you need to grow. With NetSuite, you save time, money, and unneeded headaches by managing sales, finance and accounting, orders, and HR instantly from your desktop or phone. That's why NetSuite is the world's #1 cloud business system. Companies that use NetSuite grow 3 times faster than the S&P 500. And right now, NetSuite is offering you valuable insights with a free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits at netsuite.com/Fox. That's netsuite.com/Fox to download your free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. netsuite.com/Fox.
Happy New Year's Eve. It's time now for one more thing. I'm going to go first because Greg isn't here to make fun of me. I'm going to do pictures of Jasper. My top 5. Here's one of him. Actually, this is him watching me on TV, but Peter says he's never really ever recognized me on TV. So
Streaming real news, real honest opinion, 24/7, 365. This is Fox News Radio.